wondered how challenging it can be to navigate intimacy after a conflict? Indeed, the path to reconnecting and rediscovering the closeness that once existed can be fraught with many obstacles. This journey, however, is not only about overcoming challenges, but also about embarking on a transformative process of growth and understanding. Conflict, while often viewed negatively, is an inevitable part of any relationship. It's the storm that shakes the foundation, but it's also the rain that waters the seeds of growth. The true measure of a relationship is not in avoiding conflict, but in how we handle it, how we learn from it, and how we use it as a stepping stone towards a deeper connection. In the aftermath of a disagreement, the challenge of reconnecting can seem daunting. The emotions are raw, the trust may be fractured, and the distance can feel insurmountable. But it's in these moments when we feel most vulnerable that we have the opportunity to show our true strength. It's about having the courage to reach out, to communicate, to listen, and to understand. In this insightful journey, we will explore practical strategies that can help navigate the rocky terrain of reconciliation. We'll delve into empathetic communication techniques that foster understanding and diffuse tension. We'll discuss effective problem-solving skills that promote compromise and mutual respect. And we'll uncover the power of vulnerability and forgiveness in healing wounds and rebuilding trust. It's important to remember that reconnecting is not about erasing the past or ignoring the conflict. It's about acknowledging it, learning from it, and using it as a catalyst for growth and change. It's about finding the strength within ourselves and within our relationships to turn conflict into connection, discord into harmony, and challenges into opportunities. So, as we embark on this journey together, let's approach it with an open heart and an open mind. Let's remember that it's okay to stumble, it's okay to feel vulnerable, and it's okay to seek help. Because after all, conflict is not the end, it's a new beginning. Let's explore how. Consider a couple who found themselves in a cycle of the silent treatment. Let's call them Jane and Tom. They loved each other deeply, but their relationship had been marred by a series of misunderstandings and disagreements. As a result, they retreated into their corners of silence, each waiting for the other to break the ice. This silence, however, only amplified their feelings of isolation and resentment. Jane felt neglected, believing that Tom was intentionally ignoring her. Tom, on the other hand, felt misunderstood, thinking Jane was refusing to see his side of the story. This silent treatment cast a shadow over their intimacy, creating a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. But remember, every cloud has a silver lining. In their case, it was the realization that this silence was not solving anything. It was only driving them further apart. So they decided to adopt a new strategy: open communication and active listening. They understood that their silence was not a weapon, but a wall that was keeping them from the love they so deeply desired. So one evening, they sat down, agreeing to listen to each other without interruption or judgment. Jane shared her feelings of neglect and abandonment, while Tom expressed his frustrations of feeling misunderstood. They did not interrupt or dismiss each other's feelings. Instead, they acknowledged and validated them. This open dialogue was not easy. It required courage, patience, and a willingness to be vulnerable. But it was through this vulnerability that they began to understand each other's perspective. They realized that their silence was not a sign of indifference, but a cry for understanding and connection. Through this newfound understanding, they began to rebuild their intimacy. They broke down the walls of silence and replaced them with bridges of understanding. They learned that love is not just about feeling good all the time, but also about navigating the challenging times with grace and empathy. Through open dialogue, they began to understand each other's perspective, breaking the silence. Imagine another couple who were stuck in an endless blame game. Like a tennis match, accusations were volleyed back and forth, each one escalating the tension. The blame game, a classic scenario where each partner is more focused on highlighting the other's mistakes than acknowledging their own. Picture this. He blamed her for not spending enough time together. She blamed him for not helping around the house. He blamed her for their dwindling social life. She blamed him for their lack of communication. Their love, once a vibrant flame, was now a flickering ember, suffocating under a thick blanket of blame. But the blame game is a losing game. There are no winners, only casualties. It's a destructive force that chips away at the foundation of trust and respect in a relationship. It's like a storm that leaves destruction in its wake, uprooting the tree of love that took years to nurture and grow. But what if they could change the game? What if instead of blaming each other, they took responsibility for their own actions and feelings? What if he acknowledged that he too could make more effort to spend quality time? What if she admitted that she too could communicate her feelings more openly? You see, when we stop pointing fingers at others and start looking within, we empower ourselves. We acknowledge our part in the conflict, and this leads to a shift in perspective. This shift is the first step towards healing. It's like a ray of sunshine breaking through the storm clouds, illuminating the path to reconciliation. It's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about understanding and empathy. It's about saying, I understand how you feel, and I'm sorry for my part in causing that feeling. It's about taking the high road, about choosing love over ego. In the end, it's not the blame game that defines a relationship, but the willingness to step out of it. When the couple in our story decided to take responsibility and stop blaming, they started to reconnect. Their love began to bloom again, nurtured by understanding, empathy, and respect. When they stopped pointing fingers and started looking within, their relationship began to heal. Picture a couple who were on the brink of separation until they discovered the power of forgiveness. Let's call them Jane and John. Names as common as their story is unique. Love brought them together, but over time, misunderstandings and disagreements began to create a chasm between them. It seemed as though they were teetering on the edge of an irreparable rift. Yet in the midst of their turmoil, they stumbled upon the transformative power of forgiveness. It wasn't an overnight miracle, rather a journey of introspection and self-awareness. They began to understand that forgiveness was not about absolving the other of their mistakes, but about releasing themselves from the prison of resentment. It was about acknowledging their own flaws and the role they played in the discord. They started practicing forgiveness, not as an act, but as a strategy. They realized that empathy was a key component, a bridge that could span the chasm between them. They learned to put themselves in each other's shoes, to truly understand the other's perspective. This didn't mean they agreed with everything, but they learned to respect the other's viewpoint, to validate their feelings. As they practiced forgiveness and empathy, they began to see changes. The walls of resentment began to crumble, replaced by bridges of understanding. Their conversations became less about pointing fingers and more about finding solutions. They started to rekindle the intimacy that was once lost, rediscovering each other in a new light. This wasn't an easy journey, and it required courage and vulnerability. They had to confront their own shortcomings, to accept responsibility for their part in the conflict. They had to be willing to let go of their pride, to ask for forgiveness, and to forgive in return. Through this journey, Jane and John discovered that forgiveness was not a sign of weakness, but a testament to their strength. It was a powerful tool that helped them rebuild their relationship, to breathe new life into their love. With forgiveness, they breathed new life into their relationship. Rekindling intimacy after conflict is a journey, not a destination. We've taken quite a journey together in this discussion, haven't we? As we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on the key points we've explored. We began by acknowledging the challenge of reconnecting. Conflict is a part of every relationship, but it's how we respond to it that truly defines us. We understood that the silent treatment is a common response, but it's a path that leads nowhere. Instead, open communication, even when it's uncomfortable, is the key to rekindling the warmth of intimacy. Then, we dove into the blame game, a slippery slope that can drive a wedge in relationships. We learned that taking responsibility for our actions rather than pointing fingers helps us grow individually and collectively. It's not about who's right or wrong, but about understanding each other's perspectives and finding a middle ground. Next, we delved into the power of forgiveness. It's a potent balm, healing the wounds that conflict often leaves behind. When we forgive, we don't just let go of the past, but also open the door to a future filled with understanding and compassion. We saw how forgiveness is not a one-off act, but a continual practice that helps rebuild trust and intimacy. Throughout this journey, we've explored practical strategies, empathetic communication techniques, and effective problem-solving skills. All of these tools are available to us, but they require patience, practice, and perseverance. The road to rekindling intimacy after conflict is not always smooth, but it is definitely worth the ride. Remember, every relationship is unique. What works for one might not work for another. The strategies we've discussed are not a magic potion, but guidelines that you can adapt to suit your unique circumstances. Intimacy after conflict is possible. It's all about navigating with grace, understanding, and forgiveness. As we conclude, let's remember to carry these insights into our relationships, nurturing them with the warmth of understanding, the strength of forgiveness, and the joy of rekindled intimacy. If you found this discussion valuable and would like to explore more insights, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Intimacy Illumination. Your support helps us continue to shed light on the path towards stronger and more fulfilled relationships. Thank you for being a part of our community.